It is the place where we liberate you from the chaos of working in your business. You've reached the Business on Purpose podcast, the Business on Purpose platform. My name's Scott Beebe, the founder and the head coach of the Business on Purpose platform. And these next few podcasts are going to be really, really special. We do this on a regular basis down in the low country of South Carolina, where our geographical headquarters is. Our online headquarters is at mybusinessonpurpose.com, but we have the privilege of being able to serve small business owners, both locally and around the world. And locally, about every 3 months or so, we host an event, and we just provide it locally for our clients, the ones we get the privilege of being able to serve here in the low country, either with a lunch or, at the time of this recording, we just finished a half-day mid-year workshop where we really focused in on this one idea of what it means to be a heroic leader. And it wasn't just for the business owners we serve, but also for their key leaders. So we had a room full of about 40 people, all here in the low country of South Carolina, and it was a delightful time. And so you're going to hear a few sessions. I will be presenting in the first couple of sessions, and then you're going to hear a guy by the name of Jesse Cole. He is the co-owner with his wife of the Savannah Bananas, a minor league baseball team in Savannah, Georgia, and also the Gastonia Growl, a minor league baseball team in Gastonia right outside of Charlotte, North Carolina. And I promise you want to hear what he has to say. Just remember this: fans first, entertain always, and your mind will be blown by the stories he shares. And I think it'll be really, really impactful. I know it will be incredibly impactful with these stories that he shares. And you'll want to hear and take these next few podcasts really as leadership training. So you listen for yourself, pass it around to your team. And we're delighted to be able to share this with you from our time in the Heroic Leadership Half-Day Workshop for the Business on Purpose clients, and we're delighted to have you be able to join in. And listen, if you need support in being liberated from the chaos of working in your business, let us know, mybusinessonpurpose.com, or just go to 4stepstobusinessfreedom.com. It's all spelled out, 4stepstobusinessfreedom.com, and you can check out there how we might be able to serve you. All right, dive in. Here you go. Hope you enjoy this session of this series of heroic leadership entitled We Need You to. So get your pens ready and open your minds as Jesse Cole talks about fans first, entertain always.
I appreciate you guys having me out and inviting me here. It's funny, when we first came up with the name, the Savannah Bananas, no one invited me anywhere. So literally I couldn't go anywhere. I sat in my house while people made fun of the name, but things have changed in a year and a half. So today I'm going to share kind of a few things I'm very passionate about, kind of give you some tips, some things that we've learned over the years. The first one is find your yellow tux. Now, I'm not wearing yellow tux right now. I have 5 of them, but they're all in the cleaners after a big week this past season. But to me, that means be different and stand out, and everyone can find their unique thing that makes them different or makes their business different. And the second one, which Scott's alluded to, is fans first. And to me, that means take care of your people like family. And for us, our biggest fans are our people, our employees. And we take care of them, and then they take care of the fans. So those are the 2 things that I'm going to share today and go into it. But obviously, I want to give a little bit of context. First, I'll give a statistic from a study that blew me away. 96% of businesses do not exist after 10 years. All right, only 4% of businesses last 10 years. All right. The other statistic, only 13% of people absolutely love their job and are not thinking about going to another job. So those 2, if you look at the 96% of businesses that no longer exist, that goes into us about find your yellow tux. You have to be different if you want to succeed. You can ask all these companies, the Circuit Cities, the Blockbusters, the Radio Shack, the Sears, all these companies that dominated, they didn't reinvent and they're no longer existing. So I'll just talk about that, and then obviously the fans first and the people that makes up kind of what we do if you come to our games. So going back to context, let's put it back to where I started in Gastonia, North Carolina. Now, it was 10 years ago, and I got a job as a general manager of a baseball team, and I never forget the first day I showed up. I showed up and I found out the real numbers. I found out that the team only averaged 200 fans a game. I found out that the team was losing $150,000 a year, and I found out there was only $268 in the bank account. And there were 3 employees, and payroll was on Friday. This was my first day right out of college taking this job. An amazing first day. I remember I made 10 phone calls. The team had been there for 7 years, and I made 10 phone calls. The first 7 calls, people had never even heard of the team. The next 2 calls, people said they would never work with us ever. And the final call I got hung up on. So again, great first day. I walked out. I remember calling my dad. I was like, what did I get into? And so I had a few options. I could run or try to figure it out. And what I decided, I was like, I got to try to learn everything I can possibly learn to make it successful. So I thought long and hard, and I said, we've been a baseball team for 7 years and failed. No one's come to the games. No, we're losing hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I said we can no longer be a baseball team. And I said we have to be about entertainment. And I challenge all of you to look at this too. It's what business are you in, but what business are you really in? And for us, we weren't in the baseball business. At least no one in Gastonia knew it, and no one showed up. So I said we need to think about what we can do to make it fun, make it entertaining. So I immediately started finding mentors. Now it's funny, all of my mentors were dead. So I got Bill Veeck, which is one of the most famous baseball owners, and I read all his books. He's the guy that was most famous for having the Eddie Geidel, the midget, come to a plate in a major league game. But I loved more of his stories about how he would give 12 live lobsters to a fan during a game just to see what would happen. All right? Or he'd give 100 hot dogs to one fan in one grandstand and 100 buns to one fan in another grandstand and just watch and see what happens. He did crazy things, and I learned a lot from him. He was so far ahead of his game. That's why many people didn't even talk about him. The other 2, P.T. Barnum, blew me away. Most people think about P.T. Barnum in the circus, but really the things he did with his museum were unbelievable. I mean, he would have huge elephants outside of his museum just to draw attention. He would put a terrible band playing on the balcony, the worst sounding band ever, and he'd say, well, that's what you get for not paying anything. You better come inside. And so he tried to influence people to come inside so they didn't have to hear the terrible music on the outside. Really unique. And then obviously Walt Disney. And I think a lot of people think about Walt Disney is they think about his theme parks and everything he did, but they don't think about his struggles and his challenges as an animator and what he went through. And I remember hearing about him going all in on some of his films like Snow White, and he bet his whole life and his mortgage, and if that didn't succeed, he was done. So he had a lot of great stories. So I followed them. I read every book I could read about them, and I was like, all right, we're going to go all in on this entertainment. So I remember the phone call to the owner of the business, and I said, Ken, we're not going to be a baseball team anymore. And he goes, what do you mean? I go, well, our players are going to do choreographed dances every game. We're going to have grandma beauty pageants. I'm going to get in the dunk tank every game, and it's going to be a circus every day, and maybe a baseball game will break out. Fortunately, I didn't get fired. He just looked at me and said, what do we got to lose? And in fact, we had nothing to lose. So that first year, we tried everything. I remember we did a flatulence fun night where we actually had whoopee cushions delivered to the ballpark and with our logo on it. And I was all excited, but the whoopee cushions showed up and they were about this small. So it became kids' whoopee cushion giveaway night. And we had a bean burrito eating contest on the field. And it was very, very weird. Let's put it this way, it was not the most family-friendly night ever. And it didn't draw that well either. We had a salute to underwear night where we threw out Grizzlies tighty whities. And if anyone wore their underwear on the outside, they got a free ticket. The media showed up to that one. And again, not the most family-friendly night. So we learned a lot, but my point is we tried things and we tried things. We buried a diamond ring in the infield dirt. We literally had that grandma beauty pageant where an 87-year-old great-grandmother won, and her answer to the question was, if you could be on the cover of one magazine, what would it be? And she said, of course, Playboy. And I go, oh, jeez. But what happened was people started to learn that, wow, you expect the unexpected. Come to the games. I remember walking through the stands one of those first nights, and a husband and a wife are talking, and the husband's asking about something with the kids, and the wife goes, shut up, honey, they're about to dance, as the players were getting ready to dance. So it was really, really interesting. So what happened was obviously attendance grew, and people started talking about the team. I remember that was the year we offered George Bush an internship after he lost he was no longer in office. He didn't accept. I actually heard from his secretary he's too busy during the summer to take an internship with us, but at least I got a response. We had a host family lined up for him and everything, but we tried a lot of very, very unique things, and the attendance rose. We got to 1,000 a game, then 1,200 a game, then 1,500 a game. Then we started selling out games, and my wife and I said, all right, let's go all in, and we decided to buy the team from the owner, and we started having success. This was back in 2014, and the final game of the 2014 season was a sold-out crowd, 4,000 people. Me and my yellow tux, I decided to get down to a knee and propose to my wife, and so I got down there, and thank goodness she said yes, because that would have been the most awkward situation ever. And the next night she said, hey, you did this for me. I want to surprise you with a trip. I've heard great things about Savannah. Let's go down to Savannah. So we came down to Savannah, and we went down, loved the city, and we went to a game at Grayson Stadium. And we're sitting up in the grandstand, beautiful day, 80 degrees. The minor league team was playing there, and there was less than 500 people there. And I'm looking around, I'm like, this stadium is gorgeous. Why is no one here? And so I remember texting the commissioner of our league, and I said, hey, if this team, the Sandats team ever leaves, we'd love to come in. And lo and behold, we heard they were leaving. So we started working with the city, and one of the city officials came down to our Gastonia game, saw a sold-out crowd, and said, let's do it. And then this is where the story gets interesting, and this goes in about being different and things you can take with your business. October 5th, 2015 was the first day we moved into the office at Grayson Stadium. We showed up, and we found out the former team had cut the phone lines, they cut the internet lines, they took everything out of the stadium, and there was nothing left. And to give you a little idea, talking about, I know Scott's talked about this, about leading millennials and young people. This was our staff that first day. We had 2 people right out of college, 22 years old. This was their first job. Our president was 24 years old. And then it was my wife and I, and we're in our early 30s. And we set up a picnic table in the office with no phones, no internet, and the 5 of us just sat there saying, what are we going to do? Trying to figure it out. And so, all right, let's just roll the dice and have fun. So months go by, we had this big launch down in Savannah to let them know we were here, and it was crickets. No one cared. They were like, this was minor league baseball, now we're going to college summer baseball. No one cared. We unveiled the all-you-can-eat tickets, where literally include a ticket and all your burgers, hot dogs, chicken sandwiches, soda, popcorn, Bird's cookies, everything for $15. No one paid attention. And it got to a point in January, I'll never forget, it was my best friend's wedding up in New Jersey, and I got a phone call from our COO of both teams. He said, Jesse, we're completely out of money. We just overdrew the accounts. And I'm turning to my wife, I'm like, what did we do? All right. And so she said, we only have one option. So we had to sell our house in Charlotte. So we sold our house in Charlotte. We found a fixer-upper on Tybee that was on the market for over 3 years. My wife tells the story. I walked in and said, nope, no way, we're not buying this. It was the grossest little place I've ever seen. She said, this is all we can afford. We have to do it. So we bought that. We emptied out our savings account. This was January of 2016, and we said, let's go all in. We believe we're different. We believe we can get people excited. So at this point, we're hoping, and we had the Name the Team contest. We got over 1,000 suggestions. Only one was as ridiculous as bananas. But when we first saw that, we said, yes, we can have so much fun with that. We can name the mascot Split. We can have a senior citizen dance team called the Banana Nanas. All right, we can literally think of all these things. And we started using all our marketing and said, you know what? Let's do it. And if this will create some attention, this will create some excitement, and this will show we're fun. We're not going to be the Seagulls or the Ports or the Anchors or something boring that no one cares about. So we got our whole staff together, and we said, guys, our whole staff, all 5 of us, we said, are you guys all in on this? And they said, yes. I go, we're going to be crucified. Just be ready, all right? It's going to get bad. And they said, all right, let's get ready. And so I remember the night before the launch, February 25th, I couldn't sleep. I'm sitting, well, being very open. It was in this one bedroom on Tybee. We were sleeping on an air bed, and it was the grossest place ever. I'm barely sleeping any of the nights, but that night in particular. And we get ready for the launch. A week earlier, we had our first shipment of T-shirts come in. Bananas was spelled wrong, too many N's. So those shirts are gone. So we get ready for the launch, and we're sitting there. Over 500 people showed up. It's at Grayson Stadium. All the media is there, and I told the staff it could go 3 ways. When we announce the name, they're either going to cheer, they're going to boo, or probably the worst, it's going to be dead silence. I was like, please, no dead silence. We announce the name, and fortunately what happens, they cheer, they go right to the banana stand, everyone's buying new bananas gear. My wife comes over and says, Jesse, you won't believe this, we're #1 trending on Twitter. We're ahead of Donald Trump. I go, no way. And he had a Republican debate that day. I was like, wow, this is crazy. And then all of a sudden, SportsCenter reaches out. Good Morning America reaches out. Everyone starts reaching out. I'm like, this is crazy, because the name's just different, I guess. And so it starts taking off, and she goes, Jesse, we made another mistake. She shows me the orders, and it's every second. There's orders coming from all over the country. She goes, we only ordered 1,000 shirts. We had sold those shirts in a few hours to 44 states, 6 countries. Another thing that you don't realize is shipping to foreign countries is not that cheap. So we learned shipping to New Zealand and everything for an $18 order. It was costing us $65. Wasn't good math. So we had to learn that department. But within a few hours, it took off. The next day, there was a line at the office to buy tickets and buy merchandise. And all of a sudden, while we were being ridiculed locally, everyone was saying, no one will come to your games. I remember we saved all the tweets, saved all the Facebook messages and the emails. It said the owners should be thrown out of town. You guys are an embarrassment to our city. Get out of here. You won't sell one ticket. You'll last maybe a season. We saved all those. And the year after, on our birthday, we launched it as mean tweets and mean videos and put it all out there and had a lot of fun with it. But what I'm saying is it was different, but we didn't just say it was just not in a name. You had to keep going. So we started to think of all these other things we could do with bananas, all these other unique things. And if you've been to a game this year, you know we have a banana baby before our game where we actually get a little tiny 6-month-old or younger. And before the game, the father or the mother comes to home plate. We have all the players around them, and they lift the baby up in the air like Simba from Lion King, and we play Na Sabenya Nahiv. All right, it makes 0 sense, but people like it. You were mentioning heroes earlier. We're talking about heroes. So I said, our Bat Boy, let's dress him up like Batman. So we have a 10-year-old Bat Boy who gets the bats, and he's dressed up like Batman with the cape, getting all the bats. He's our hero from the dugout. So we just started having a lot of fun, and that's what we do. And we created this kind of hysteria of it's not a baseball game, it's about entertainment. And now this year we have a 30-piece pep band that literally plays on dugouts during games like a football atmosphere. It's not like a baseball game. Unfortunately, what happened, the first 7 games sold out last year. It broke the record attendance for the league, the stadium. And now this year, we've been very fortunate. MSNBC has come down to do a national feature on ESPN. And now it looks like every single ticket to every single game will be sold out. The only time in history every game is sold out. So we're very excited. My wife and I actually now have a real bed, not an air bed. So things have really developed for us. But the point of the context of that story is to really share that we believed in going all in because we believed what we were doing is different. And you've talked a lot about being average and doing average work. And we pride ourselves so much in everything on what makes us different? What can we be the best at? I think everyone tries to compare businesses, what you're doing here, what you're doing here. It's not only what you can be the best at, but what can you be the only at? There are so many baseball teams competing, all right? In baseball, I'll say it right here, it is long, slow, and boring. It is long, slow, and boring. In every single game, I'm fighting with how to make it more fast and more exciting. And if you try to compete in that game that everyone else is, you lose. So that's what we focused on, and how are we different, how are we unique? So where we're going now is where are you going to focus on your people? And I think this is the biggest thing that I kind of want to share a little bit today, is we're working with all millennials. And literally, our oldest person is 25 years old. We have 14 full-time staff, 22 to 25 years old. That's an interesting group, and it's funny because I feel like the elder statesman, and I'm only 10, 12 years older than them. But we learned something very important about the fans first culture, and it is not just about money anymore. I think 5, 10 years ago, everyone talked about trying to create, they want more money, they want more money, they want more money. No, they want purpose, they want happiness, they want fun, they want freedom in their life. That's what we're seeing more than anything. And what we've developed is what we call a whale done culture. And it's a great book by Ken Blanchard. I'll suggest it to anybody. But the way they train the whales at SeaWorld is when they do something right, they give them rewards and they recognize it. When they do something wrong, they don't even pay attention to it. How many business owners catch people doing things wrong as opposed to catching people doing things right? And I think that happens all the time. We go the exact opposite. So this started last year. Before our games, we'd have a quick 5-minute huddle, and we'd say, guys, let's talk about fans' first moments. All right, what are you going to do today to create a special memory for a fan? And that's all we would talk about. And then when we get back at the end of the game and say, what were your fans' first moments? What were the special things that you created for the fans? And we had some amazing, amazing moments. I'll never forget on opening night, a woman came up to me and she was crying. She was kind of almost teary-eyed. And she's like, can you get me a signed baseball? And, being very open, we get asked by hundreds of people to get baseballs, mostly kids, very rarely a woman. And I said, yeah, we'll see what we can do, maybe after the game. And she goes, it would really mean a lot to me. She goes, my fiance had come to every single opening night since he was a kid, and he just died a month ago, tragically. And I said, we'll get you a signed baseball. And so she said, you don't believe this. My fiance's name was Drew Moody, and you have a player on your team named Drew Moody. And so I said, wow. So I went to Drew Moody. He was an 18-year-old kid. And I said, Drew, I told him the story. He goes, I'd love to go sit with her during the game. And I was like, wow, an 18-year-old kid. But he goes, it's fans first, and if that'll help create a nice moment. So he signed a baseball. He walked up and sat with her for a whole inning. And she gave him the biggest hug at the end of that inning. She came out to me and gave me a huge hug. And I was blown away by that. And it was those moments, and even through our players understand it. And if you've been to one of our games, you understand, like, our players don't just play baseball. We teach them to dance, but not only that, in the middle of the game, they'll go and give roses to little girls. They'll come out in the crowd and create these special moments. So that's what we talk about. So literally, after every game, tell me your fans' first moments. What happened? And we recognize them. And it's constant recognition, recognition, recognition. It may sound Pollyanna right now. It's like everything, oh, for roses and roses and roses. But I'll tell you what happens is it gets all throughout your culture. And all it is fun. Like that, we just have fun every single day. And so what happened is that we go through the season, we had this intern, I'll never forget, Kiki. And she showed up, introverted intern. First day, she's kind of walking around, doesn't know where to sit, doesn't know where to do. And it's halfway through the season, and I say, Kiki, we really need some help selling beer. And this was strategic on my part because I wanted to get her out of her shell a little bit. And so I said, Kiki, if you can just do a few, come on, beer here, just, yell a little bit, And so all of a sudden I'm going through middle of the game, and I see this huge line at Kiki's beer stand. And I'm like, what's going on? And all of a sudden I hear Kiki going, get tipsy with Kiki. And she's just literally yelling out. And I'm like, Kiki. And it was the best day I've ever seen a beer on that stand. And she just came out of her shell. And she's like, that was the most fun I've ever had. So that whole night, everyone's talking like, Kiki, you were getting it. You were having some fun. And they were talking about it the whole night. So the next day, I see Kiki, and she answers the phone. And she's singing, Savannah Bananas, this is Kiki. And she's literally singing, answering the phone. And I'm like, Kiki, you are amazing. 22-year-old. And I just kept talking. I was like, Kiki, keep doing that. Keep having fun with that. So now when people come into the office, she gets up right now and introduces herself. Says, I'm Kiki. Welcome to Savannah Bananas. Think about this. How many times do you go to a store or a place you're greeted like that? How many times do you go to a restaurant and there's no one even there to greet you when you walk in? It doesn't happen. And so Kiki started embracing this and having fun with it. And now as a 23-year-old, she oversees our entire game day staff, 175 people, every single game as a 23-year-old, because we empowered her to be herself. And she handles it all, and she loves it. And it's just amazing to see an intern kind of come from that to where she is now. I'll share another story of a millennial, Danny, who came to us. I'll tell you, if you ever see someone that's persistent, that really wants a job with you, if you don't have a job, try to find one. Because this kid tried with us for 2 months trying to get a job for us, emailing, writing us, sending us letters, working so hard. We're like, Danny, we don't have a job. Like, this was the point we didn't have money. I was like, we don't know what we're. He's like, I'll make it work. I'm going to sell. I'm going to do well. So he came in and, yeah, that's what he did. He sold in the community. He reached out to every single nonprofit, church, Little League, you name it, school. And he ended up raising over $41,000 for nonprofits and helping selling out 15 of the games. So after the season, I said, my wife and I are like, we got to do something. Boy, he was unbelievable. And he's from Cleveland, and him and his dad, they have one connection, and it's the Cleveland Indians. That's the one connect. Like, they're just so close to the Cleveland Indians. So he said, we're going to do it. So when they went to the Game 1 of the World Series, we brought the whole staff together, and we got him this toy airplane. And he opens it. He goes, thanks, what is this? And I said, Danny, it represents kind of how far you've come and how far you're going, how you've taken everyone with you. He goes, oh, that's really nice. And everyone's like, yay. And I go, and also we're flying you to Game 1 of the World Series tomorrow. You're going with your dad. And you see a 24-year-old start like getting teary-eyed, a man start getting teary-eyed. It was pretty special. And so we did that in front of him. And I'll tell you right now, a lot of times you feel like, well, what are the other people? Were the other people like jealous? every single person was so proud of Danny and a part of it because we built that recognition culture, and they knew Danny took us a long way as a 24-year-old. So just really kind of cool things that you can think, how can you recognize your staff and what can you do? And that's where we're trying to go. So a few things going into this fall, we said, how can we continue to grow as a business, and how can we continue to help our people grow? And a big thing for me is simplifying. And how many businesses you know that have mission statements that their people don't even know what it is? It's those paragraphs of long, like, what is it? What do you guys do? You know? And so we simplified what we are. It's fans first, entertain always. Our name of our company is Fans First Entertainment. Our mission is fans first, entertain always. That's what we do. That's what we think we can be the best at. And so we wanted to continue to go a little further and develop some core beliefs to help grow our business as we went from 4 full-time now to 14 full-time. And we developed the Fans First way. And I want to tell you how simple we kept this. This is so simple. We use the alphabet, and it's always be caring, different, enthusiastic, fun, growing, and hungry. And literally a first day we can tell people, go through the alphabet. What's D? Different. What's E? Enthusiastic. And each day and each week we go through this with our people. All right, guys, how are we growing? What are we doing? How are we hungry? What are we doing that's different? I think that's very important when you think about how you do things. Are you doing it like everyone else? And so we talk about this every single day with our people. The one thing I know Scott wanted me to discuss was a lot of companies, they invest in going to conferences. All right, they spend all this money going to conferences, taking care of their people to try to learn. I learned from a book called Worth Doing Good from a guy who had an advertising agency in Nashville, Tennessee. And it was an advertising agency for injury lawyers, literally personal injury lawyers. So it was the most unsexy advertising agency there is. And they're trying to attract these young people. It's like, oh, I work for an ad agency. It's like Mad Men. Well, you're doing personal injury lawyers. And he's like, we got to make this culture fun. We got to make it exciting. So he went all in on the culture, and he said, I want to help our people grow. And he realized he got an expense report. It was $6,000 to send 2 people to a conference. Send them to the conference, fly them there, all the expenses. And he goes, this is crazy. And his wife at that point, they were moving. His wife said, you have hundreds of books. I want them gone. I want them out of the house. And he's like, well, what do you want me to do? These are all my books. And he said, she's like, I don't know, just get rid of them. He's like, I'm going to bring them to the office. So he brings all the books to the office, and he's like, you know what? My people are going to read. I'm going to help them read. And he's like, guys, here are all the books. Who wants to read? And no one read any of the books. Like, literally, he tried again. He's like, come on, guys, they're really good. And no one read it. And he's like, well, you know what? This is ridiculous. We just spent $6,000 on a conference for 2 people. Why don't I pay our people to read? He goes, they'll probably get more out of a few books than maybe a conference. And so he started this thing called the Better Book Club. And it's now international. And I read about it, and it's called the Better Book Club, and it just has different points and money for each book. Every single book that's out there is in this platform. It goes right on Amazon, goes right through it. And it's $25, $50, $75, $100, depending on the book. And it has a short little 6 questions you can answer. And I said, let's do this. If one of our core values, our Fan First way, is growing, let's start paying for our people to read. So 22-year-olds right out of college, done with reading. And I said, guys, let's read. And all of a sudden I said, guys, there's money in all the books. And they're like, what? So we set up a library in my office with tons of books, hundreds of books. And all of a sudden I just see them start going there, and they're like, what do we get? What do we get? And they suggest, and they read it, they do the book report. And we have obviously a recognition way where we let everyone know when someone finishes a book, give them a shout out. And all of a sudden our people are starting getting $200 a month, $200 a month, $200 a month. And we've paid out, I don't know, $4,000 so far to our people so far. And we started this just 9 months ago. And it's really cool to watch people fall in love with trying to get better and trying to grow. And so now our people are constantly trying to read. What should we read? What do you suggest? And it's really cool. So that's been one thing that we've worked as far as young people and growing. The other one is a great book called One Word. And if you've heard about New Year's resolutions, what's the success rate of New Year's resolutions? Somebody heard? I mean, I think I've heard one statistic, it was like 10%. I'm like, that might be generous. I don't know. It's bad. And so that's how this book came together. And the guy said, New Year's resolutions fail. They're great in January, then they're done. Why don't we come up with something called One Word? And it's just one word that you can focus on for the entire year. And you put it in front of you, and it's your word for the year. And John Gordon was a part of it, and Jay Papasan, and they started doing it with their family. And they picked this one word, and it was just such a great focus. And I said, let's start trying this. So my wife and I tried it a year before we introduced it to our people, and it was great. For her word was live, because she was working every day. She wanted to go trying to do more things. So she said yes to traveling more. She said yes to doing things with her friends. She said yes to new experiences. And every day she had that in front of her. That was huge. For me, I chose the word care. And I wanted to take it another level. I don't want to say I'm going to care every day. I want to really do something tangible. So I started something I called the thank you experiment. And I started this in 2016, and every morning I'd start my day with gratitude. I'd have a thank you letter, and I'd write a thank you letter to someone. That continued all the way now. I'm at 500 now. I'm still doing it every day. And what's great about that, what's really amazing that's happened with that for me, is that it's amazing how great you feel when you're writing a thank you letter to someone else. And it sounds crazy, but it might be the most selfish thing I've ever done in writing a thank you letter to everyone, because how good it makes me feel. And it's interesting, when you start writing one every single day, you start looking for different things that you're appreciative of, whether it's a waiter or a waitress or your mailman or someone that just comes in that you have a meeting with or someone that sends you a great email. And that was my word. I started using that. So after 2 years of doing that, my wife and I said, let's put this on our team. And so now everyone has an index card with their one word. And whether it's focus, discipline, lead, for our president has that, they have it in front of them constantly, every single day. And that's been a huge thing. And it's crazy to think, like, these are young people. These are 22, 23 years old, but they have a bigger purpose, and it's not just going to work every day. So those are two examples, the Better Book Club and One Word, that have really helped us tremendously with leading. I will share two other things that I'm really passionate about. If you're trying to be innovative, this is where you got to start. Everyone says, Jesse, where do you come up with all these crazy ideas? I go, this is where you start. What frustrates you about your industry? What frustrates you about a piece of your business? As soon as you think about that, what frustrates you, what bothers you, that's where we come up with everything. And a great story about Seinfeld, that's how they came up with the show Seinfeld. They were frustrated by how sitcoms were, so they decided to do a sitcom about nothing. I mean, that's literally what they did. Jerry Maguire, the classic scene in Jerry Maguire, he was frustrated about how they were trying to get more clients and more players, so he wanted to focus on one. For us, that's where we start. And from there, the second step is, what is the perfect experience for your customer? It sounds so simple, but what is the perfect experience for your customer? And you need to go all the way back from where they see you the first time, whether they see you on your website, whether they call in. It sounds very simplistic, but when they go to your website, is it about them or is it about you? We're talking about the hero a little bit, Scott. You know what? The customer is the hero. It shouldn't, if your website, the first thing says, been in business since 1846 or 1946, this is my great-grandfather's business, did we do this, we do this, we do this, who cares? How does it affect your customer? So that first impression is very important. So, when you go to your website, make it very simple, and then, is it easy to use? I mean, what about your Facebook? Who's spending time on your social media? I mean, that's the perception of your company. So to give you an idea, when someone calls us or when someone buys a ticket from us, the first thing they get is an email that says, congrats, you just made the best decision of your day. Right now, we are running around with your tickets, hoisting them up in the air, running around the stadium, doing Gatorade showers over us, and now your tickets are in maximum security and is safe. They're ready for you on will call. That's what happens. And then right after that, you'll get a call from one of our people, not saying your credit card didn't work, just saying thank you. Hey, we just want to let you guys know your tickets are all set. They're in the safe, but we just want to thank you. If you need anything, we're all ready to go. That's your first impression. Then your second impression, think about this. When they come up to your office, what does it look like? All right, a company called, there's a great book called Customers for Life by Carl Sewell. He owns numerous car dealerships. And he realized that the value of a customer for life was over $300,000 at his car dealerships. Now think about this. What's the value? If you have one customer for your entire life, how much is that worth? Now if you realize that, would you clean your bathrooms differently? How would you think about your parking lot? He used to hire outside, or still does, hire outside street sweepers to clean the streets leading up to his car dealerships. The city already cleaned them, but he wanted them even cleaner. He had the most immaculate bathrooms ever because he realized what the value of a customer for life was for him. So for us, in this perfect experience, they buy their tickets. What's that first impression? That second impression with the call. What about when they come to the stadium? What happens then? For us, if you come to our ballpark, the first thing you'll probably see is people in penguin costumes. You're like, what the heck are people in penguin costumes doing? Well, they're our parking penguins. Does it make any sense? No, all right? But I like the way it sounds, parking penguins. And if you see a penguin going like this, that makes me laugh. So we decided to do it, all right? So after you see the parking penguin, you'll come in and you'll see players dressed up in uniform handing out programs and taking pictures. All right. On our weekend nights, you'll have the pep band playing Rocky as you're coming in. You'll see our ticket takers dressed in full banana costumes. This is all before you even get into the stadium. All right. So that's the first impression. Then it's our job to put on a show nonstop. But then what about the last impression? How many times do you go to a business and no one even thanks you when you leave? It's so simple. I walk into every single restaurant. I'm like, if you don't think it's that valuable to spend $50 or $75 or $100 a night to have one person thanking people and welcoming them, that's such a short-term thinking. And just for us, if you walk at the end of our game, we'll have everyone lined up. Our staff, our people, our players even sometimes, thanking fans for coming in. Very simple thing to do. When it rains, we got poured on last night. So what do? We have all our staff with umbrellas to walk people to their cars. To give you an idea, we had an intern who was only with us for a week and a half, and I was like, guys, have you seen Laura? Where's Laura? And she finally comes back. We're getting ready to have our meeting. I go, where were you? She goes, I walked him to his house. I go, you walked someone to their house? And she's like, well, he was older, and it was really raining. She had a 10-minute walk all the way to his house, and it was only here for a week. But she goes, fans first, right? And that's how we made it simple into our culture is fans first, fans first, fans first. So, those are a few things for us. Like I say, find your yellow tux. What makes you different? What makes you unique? If you can think about that with your business. And then for fans first, I said, take care of your people first. A lot of people say customer first, and I'll share this inside. Most people in the community think fans first means for them. It does, but our staff, our employees are our biggest fans. They call their parents when something happens great. They're wearing their logos, T-shirts everywhere. They're our biggest fans, so we take care of them, and we know they'll take care of our people as well. So, I hope there were a few tips, and Scott, I can go into anything else from there. But
No. I've got 10 Post-it notes, stuff over here, stuff that I want to do some Q&A, because this is, it's gold. This stuff's gold, and what you guys have built, and there's a bunch, but one thing that's hit me is you realize, Jesse, it's hardly talked about. Hey, so how does the beer distributorship work? And when the beer comes, where do you put that? He's not talking about anything mechanistic in any of this. Because when you walk into the stadium, there's food everywhere, there's drinks everywhere, there's seats everywhere, there's maintenance everywhere, there's light bulbs, and there's all of this gadgetry going on, like real hardware gadgetry, and he's not talked about any of that. And part of that is because I think you've built such a great team. But I want to have a Q&A time. What questions do you guys have for Jesse, either specific? One of you has a question that you emailed me yesterday that you have to ask, or I'm going to burn you the rest of the week. So
it's terrible.
You are.
It's really tough.
You have to ask the question because I think it's a relevant question to our discussion. Okay, fire away, Pierce. Thank you.
You're juggling baseballs with a yellow tux, but the baseballs are white.
Ooh, so I should have yellow baseballs? Yeah, I usually juggle bananas too. Okay. So you saw a picture of Okay, yeah, I'll work on that. Very insightful question. Thank you. You hit it home there.
He literally emailed me that yesterday. I just don't get it.
That's the architect, the designer. He sees what we don't see.
No, but I'll tell you, if it doesn't make sense, that's what we try to do. Literally, we come up with, I could tell you so many stories. Literally the other game on Saturday night, people were like, what's going on? We stopped the game, and our videographer runs out to the mound, and everyone's like, what is going on? And we shot the famous Bull Durham scene on the mound scene, in the middle of the game, and fans are like, what are they doing? And I'm sitting down, this is taking too long, this is taking too long, this is taking too long, and they kept redoing the scenes, but, it doesn't make sense, but we just try to have fun with everything we do.
I hope that was helpful. Make sure to check out the other episodes of this podcast series within the Business on Purpose podcast, focused on heroic leadership. We need you to lead. So what's your one big takeaway? Why? Because we need you to lead. Hey, we're here serving people just like you, small business owners, liberating you from your chaos. Let us know how we can serve you. At the Business on Purpose platform, head on over to mybusinessonpurpose.com or 4stepstobusinessfreedom.com, all spelled out, and we'll see you there.